Resume recording. There we go. So we're gonna go live in 4 minutes, but the banter that leads up to the recording is always pretty fun. So
You know, you can include that in so many different things, and there might be such
yeah, yeah,
comedic
absolutely.
gold in
You did you
this.
set up your YouTube account already? You did, right? You said you have it?
I did, but I'm like planning on changing it because there's so many variations of that name.
So many variations of the name. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I actually have to address some name issues as well that I need to talk with you off camera.
for
Um,
sure.
but yeah, like as soon as you set that thing up, like you're gonna have like a good stockpile of content, at least for our stuff, because you could easily rip it off of YouTube and just easily start editing those
I'm
things.
ripping it all off.
I
You have no
think I
idea.
think there's a way that if you go to your Instagram on a computer browser, you can also just take all of your previous IGTVs, like the lives that you did, because
Mm-hmm.
you upload them as IGTVs. So you can get those as well and like upload those to YouTube and start cutting those up and like piecing those up. And
Dude,
so
I really would love
you have a lot
to
of
pay
content.
someone
Yeah,
to
you're
do
like,
that for me.
it's like I really would love to pay someone. It's good.
I
Got it.
mean, look, that's why people like that exist. I develop content in the form of like speaking about it and sitting in front of the camera.
Sure. No,
I
I
need somebody
understand.
to cut and edit.
I understand.
We all know our weaknesses and strengths. That's a strength in and of itself.
Hey, no, fair enough. Awareness itself is definitely a strength. And we're gonna be, so we're good. We're in 2 minutes. Let me make sure that we're actually live on Facebook right now. Cool. So the video is running. Awesome. And if we just go here in a couple of minutes, we should just see it be live. And I could share it.
Yeah, I need to be able to. I think I'm gonna start telling my followers to follow you and watch this. I don't know why I didn't even think of this because we record it and then I forget about it, which is not a good thing.
Yeah, we're pushing it as much as we can. So the reason why I'm so adamant about YouTube is because like you get searched for and you get found on YouTube just based on the searchability of it and like the
Hmm.
discovery aspect of it. On Facebook, people don't come to Facebook to consume video really. So it's like it's really not that easy to expand a page on Facebook unless you're driving ads to it,
Yeah.
which you get favored pricing because if you're driving Facebook ads to Facebook pages, they give you better pricing than if you were trying to go to an external website. So that's kind of like their way to promote internal pages, but there isn't much discoverability unless you create like a viral piece of content or some shit like this and a bunch of people share it. That would
I
be
just
the
thought of a
thing.
viral piece of content that we can create.
Write it down, dude. Like, don't think
I'm
about it.
doing
Like,
it right now. I'm
please put
writing
it
it.
in a central location that we're not going to lose the information and we can go
Oh,
back
it's
to it.
already in my brain. It's already in my brain because I
You
started writing it
forget
down.
things for weeks and then you're like, oh, hey, by the way, whatever.
At least it gets done. As a matter of fact, everything has its own time and timing. She's in Mexico right now and texted me saying she's going to go have some fun and come back and decide on her policy. So,
Oh,
timing.
nice. So you actually tied that to a live situation. That's cool.
Yes.
Oh, it's 11:15. I think we're actually live officially on Facebook.
Let's do it.
So let's see. Let me see if we're actually live on Facebook. Let's see if it's here. Is it? Is it? Is it? It doesn't. I think it is. Is it? I think it is.
I guess we'll know when we go back and see this, huh?
Well, I do want it to be live because it's like I want people to like submit questions and stuff. Like I want people to talk to us. Let's see. Let's see.
It's
Let's see.
always fun when that happens. I agree.
When people actually respond. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really cool. You experience that a lot because you have a killer show that's running for several months now.
I can't
Okay, you
believe
know
it, but I
what?
can
I so it says
start
that
over.
what's going on? It says it's live.
Then you must believe it.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I
It's
should.
affirming
It's
that
affirming
it's live.
it's live. Okay, whatever. We're just gonna assume that it's live and we're just gonna pretend that it's live. and just live our lives based on the fact that our live is live.
We're live.
That, my dear friends, was some clever wordplay. I know, I know. You're welcome. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mind on the Money show, where we explore the effects that money has on your emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being, or actually, I just thought about this right now, vice versa. Your emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being, the effects that those things have on your
Mm-hmm.
finances and on your money. With your hosts, Arman, Vakili, and of course, the wonderful Narine Tadevosyan. Thank you for
Hello,
being with
everyone.
us. Thank you for
Thank
being with us.
you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you, doctor. Thank you for
Doctor.
being here, doctor,
Doctor.
dottore. This week we're going to be talking about the power of using affirmations effectively and the process of mental reprogramming, as Narina likes to say, light morning conversation. Um, it was it sounds heavy actually, like when you when you read the title, when you read the title out loud, it's like, ooh, that sounds kind of, yeah, that sounds like a deep conversation. So but that's why we're here. We're here to
Yes.
provoke. We are here to invoke thought. We're here to disturb, to entice, to fascinate, to motivate, to inspire, all of those great
Yes,
things
yes,
if
yes.
possible. So I can list off many other words because I love words. But moving on, Ms. Narine, first and foremost, why don't you break down for us before we like get into all these crazy things? So first, you, if you don't
Break
mind,
down.
breaking down,
Boop,
yeah,
boop, boop. Break it
break
down.
break it break it down. Why don't you break down affirmations for us, and so just in case people have no idea what the hell it is and they've been like living under a rock or something, what are affirmations first and foremost?
Well, what does it really mean to affirm anything, right?
Ah,
You certify it.
okay,
You prove you are agreeing that it is true. It's become truth. It's affirmed by general observation, you know? And
right,
so when that doesn't happen, when we as people like to get affirmations for ourselves as individuals, as beings, we'd like to get that affirmation because it just shows that whatever we are putting into it, and I know people might want to go at this at a different angle, but it's just pretty basic for me that we just want validation from people, from others. A lot of people say, no, that's not true. We don't need validation to, but why? We do these things because if you don't validate me and I don't validate you, it just becomes an abyss. Just this negative. It becomes a nothingness, and then that's where affirmations come into play, where you're affirming for yourself even that this is true. But I'm probably rambling right now because I have this different idea about affirmation, but it all starts from being able to recognize yourself and affirm yourself and then
true.
carry it outwards. But then people don't know how to do that, so they seek it externally and therefore never get it
Don't spill the
for
coffee.
themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, it's enough to not get spilled.
Yeah, sure.
Passion. Ah.
Yeah. No, I actually I understand where you're going or where you're coming from, and I think it's very important to address that in affirmations. And you actually tied it to the point that I was going to make, which it starts with your validation of yourself first,
Mhm.
and this is actually the exercise of like writing down affirmations or saying affirmations, like that technique. I think it became so popularized that people kind of didn't understand what
Mhm.
like the root of it actually is. And the root of it is what Narina just described, is that people search for validation. They search for affirmation from others. I'm
Mhm.
actually that kind of a person. My love language is affirmation. It's like
Right.
verbal affirmation. So people look for those things, and it actually is very, very powerful, and it's very helpful to receive those things. But if you don't do it for yourself, if
Mhm.
you don't validate yourself, if you don't affirm who you are, what you stand for, and now it gets really interesting because then your deep conscience or like your higher self starts saying, well, you know what you're about right now is nothing to affirm. Like we shouldn't be affirming this
Yes.
person that you are right now. We should be trying to figure out, who you want to be, who you should be, and then let's affirm that.
Can I
And
say I
so,
love that?
yeah, of course you can say you love.
Okay, I love that. All right, go on.
I love that. My mesh does that all the time. She's like, oh, that's so great. I love that. I'm like,
It's
okay,
cute.
cool. Um,
Yes, yes, yes.
but
Everything you said was
yeah,
beautiful.
thank you, thank you. It's so like a really big reason for this show is because of like my own shit. Like I'm trying to like address my own things, and I realized that a lot of people have these hangups also. And I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe
Yeah,
it's helpful to just talk about this, and it's kind of therapeutic because there's a person like you here. It would be very, very different if I was doing this by myself, or if I was doing this with somebody who didn't really understand like the depth of all of these things.
yeah,
So yeah, and it provides a safe space. And even though there's going to be hundreds and thousands and hopefully maybe millions of people watching these kinds of things at the time right now, it feels okay to talk about. So, but yes, so originally, when I was trying to understand these affirmations and like use the power of affirmations, a lot of the things that I was affirming, the voice in my head was like, "You're not that person,"
hmm,
because of who I was at that time. And I knew at that time, it's like the conversation that I had at that time is like, you're a piece of crap, you're not worthy of anything, whatever, whatever. And I'm trying to reprogram my brain to say other things. So I'm saying these other affirmations, and then
mm-hmm,
the original voice is like, no, you're not. Stop. What are you talking about? Stop fooling yourself. You're lying. All of these things. And then it takes this repetition, and then we'll talk about NLP and programming in a little bit. But it took a long time to like reprogram those thoughts, because those thoughts took
yeah.
years to develop. Like there was so much programming originally being done.
But that was
So
unconscious programming, which is even
yes,
deeper because you have no idea how far back it goes.
so let's
Like
get
once you
into that
start,
actually.
yeah, because
That's
once you
actually the
start
next
unraveling,
thing on the conversation. Yeah.
you're definitely not going to stop only for last year.
So let's talk about programming. So where
Yeah.
does the programming come from? Because a lot of the things that we currently are experiencing is not who we are, it's who we were, who was passed down on us, like the views and ideas. I spoke with one of my mentors yesterday, and she was talking about her mom, and her mom's passed away. And
Mm-hmm.
her mom was a very, very, very successful, unbelievably intelligent psychologist, and so all of her kids were like really deep ingrained into psychology. And so one of the not affirmations, excuse me, one of the programs that the mom had placed within her brain was that women of such and such stature aren't supposed to be cocky. They're not supposed to be confident, because you're already obviously beautiful. You're already obviously smarter than other people. So you should tone it down a little bit so that
Hmm.
other people don't feel intimidated around you. And this is a very powerful woman. You got to understand. And like sometimes I look at her, I'm like, yo, D, like
Mm-hmm.
you're like legit, dude. Like you've done all these fucking things. Where's this insecurity coming from? And then after a
I
while,
love how
she
you
like,
recognize that as an insecurity because it is. We'll touch on that later.
well, yeah, because like you hear it, and so if it's coming from a person whose demeanor
Mm-hmm.
you're used to this powerful demeanor, and then you know what their track record is, and you know what you've dealt with, and they've dealt with, and you're like this powerful person from what I've seen, what I know is you're this powerful person, and then you're just displaying this other person right now. You're showing me
Mm-hmm.
somebody else right now. Where is this coming from? Who is this person?
Mm-hmm.
And she, after a while, she was like, well, this is where it's coming from. She trusted me enough to tell me everything that was going on. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting that like somebody that's this powerful actually still has this little voice that they're carrying. And then she called it a ghost. She said,
Mm.
I'm carrying my mother's ghost with me around this entire time. And she's just whispering these little things in my ear as I'm
Mm.
going. And it's like, whose ghost are you carrying with you that's giving you these little things that sometimes you get these little insecurities? It's like you need to be aware of these little programs. You need to be aware of these little voices. It's like this little recording. You could think of it as a ghost,
Yeah.
maybe if you want to. I think of it as a recording because I think of the brain as like a computer or something. But it's like a little recording. It's like this thing that's just replaying that somebody said like 20 years ago. that because you were in a very uh, what do they say about kids? Impressionable. You're in a very impressionable state, like a time of your life. That thing
Mm-hmm.
that they said, it landed, like it hit you. And then you were mentioning it as we were talking about this conversation, like you were in a place to receive whatever that thing was. And then since you were in a place to receive it and it actually landed, then it became internalized and it turned into your programming.
Right. But it only internalized because it was repetitive. It wasn't just like, oh, something
Well,
someone said that one time,
trauma could
right?
also be an because there's traumatic experiences that also develop programming as well. So repetitive is like one of the most
Yeah,
common ones. But there, imagine somebody being
but
assaulted.
programming is repetitive. Programming, the fact that we're talking about programming, so like an example of programming would be like what you said about women, like, oh, a woman should remain humble because she has already achieved such high stature. She shouldn't like revel in her success because it just makes other people feel intimidated. uh you know that's what she's believed, and maybe she would have touched more lives had she just been fully in, like, committed to herself and not
Mm-hmm.
what like other people perceived.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? And so by constantly telling that to someone, or and then actually living that life too, maybe her mom did that, and so like she saw that her mom wasn't stepping forward, so she just couldn't step ahead of her mom.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many, that's a programming. And then once
Mm-hmm.
you realize that you are not your parent, that you are going to leap ahead of them because now you have a different set of standards that you live by.
Mm-hmm.
Time changes everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so programming doesn't allow time to change. I mean, time doesn't allow the programming to change unless the person's willing to change the programming, and that's relative to the time. Does that make sense? We're all in a program. By the way, we just need to evolve from each program.
That's gonna be like a blooper. That's gonna be one of the things that we're just gonna cut that like 5 second
No,
piece
no,
out, where it's
listen.
like you just like to program timing is like for, and it's just
Yeah,
gonna
it is.
repeat it.
It is.
It's gonna
It's
be a
like a
good one.
fucking
It's
formula.
like
It's
a
a
meme.
formula.
It's gonna be a meme, and the words are just gonna like just come on the screen.
It's a
That's gonna be
formula.
that's
It's a
funny.
formula. We're all in a program. It's a matter of evolving from each program.
At
And
11:28 is when it happened. I have to remember.
this one here, I'll put it down. Don't remember. 11:28. A
It
to
is
the
so
M.
yeah. So the thing is, I agree with everything that you're saying, and I think that's actually one of the common, like one of the most common forms of programming that takes place, because there's a lot of different people preaching these repetitive messages as you're coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents, one of them, your teachers being the second one, and if you're
Mm-hmm.
like part of like a religious environment, religious leaders typically get a lot of weight on their word as well. And so when you're around preachers or pastors or rabbis or whatever, like these different people as you're coming up, their word also is like a real, I mean, one of my really, really close friends made a lot of significant life decisions based on religious programming. So
Mm.
it's one of those things that repetitive type of programming, absolutely 100%. I do believe in significant experiences though. I think that, for example, when you're a kid and you touch a hot stove the first time and you burn yourself, you know right away, it's like, don't do that again. That fucking hurt. It's like, I'm definitely not gonna touch fire again. Are you crazy?
Mm-hmm.
That's a type of programming. That's like, as soon as it happens, you're like, oh, oof, okay, I get it. Like that became ingrained. I understand now.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also some kind of a significant experience that can happen to somebody. A lot of times it's childhood trauma that it develops a very strong trust issue for this person. And it could have just happened one time, literally
Mm.
just one time, something happening. And you're like, oh shit, that didn't feel great. And I definitely need to put up some kind of a defense mechanism or some kind of a filtering process or
Mm-hmm.
something so that I'm aware of this happening again and that doesn't happen to me again. That's
Yeah.
programming. And those types of things can be hurtful in the adult life because when you attach certain meanings to certain people, like groups of people, then anytime that anybody from that group and they may not have any kind of malicious intent, but anybody from that group comes and tries to associate with you, you're immediately going to bring up previous trauma and you're going to cut them off because of the fact that your programming led you to. So there's different versions of this, and it's a very, very deep, very, very deep topic. But I do want to recognize the people that also experienced like significant whatever trauma experiences, anything like that.
It's just, in my opinion, and I understand what you're saying, but for the sake of reprogramming the brain, it's a matter of habit.
Sure.
And habit forming, habit breaking. So
Yeah.
the pattern, right? So what habits do you currently carry in your life that are not beneficial to you? Is it smoking? Is it thinking everyone's out to get you? Because that's a habit. And then it's like not being doubtful of people. It's a habit.
Yeah.
So these are all like brain programmings that you can break for yourself to help you progress. So self-doubt is a habit too.
Yeah, it's all, these are programs are
Yeah.
just so okay, so let's actually take a step back. So the way that the brain gets programmed, okay, or the way that the brain works, and I apologize to any neurologists or neurophysicists or anything like that, okay.
These are speculations.
This is a layman's understanding of the brain, all right.
Yes.
Let's get that out there.
It's not our fault. They don't have this in the programming when we're going to school.
They do, but it's like it's too far out into the future. And it's like, if you told me early on when I was in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, this is how the brain worked, I would have totally gotten like fascinated with the shit.
Yes.
Instead of trying to put me through all the, anyways, dude, what are we doing?
Sex ed.
Like there was like a lot of ridiculous classes that were fillers. It was like just fillers of time. And it's like, and looking back now, it's like, oh, I get it, because you guys are a business. It's like you're supposed to just drag this along.
Yes,
you're supposed to take up as much possible time so you can collect this fucking tuition. So I get it. Now I get it. But it's like, that's kind of crappy. That's like a shitty system for the development of your country. Anyways, who am I to say anything? I'm not even from this country. Nobody wants to listen to me. Okay, so
where are you from? You're right here.
I'm from, but because of the fact that I can't. Anyways, I don't want to get into politics, dude. Deep conversation. Okay.
We are all from the country of Pangea, okay? Go on.
Programming.
Let's do it. Brain programming.
This is what I understand about the brain. Okay. So when you have a certain thought, when you have any thought, when you have a thought, a surge of electricity or surge of energy will go from one part of your brain to another part of your brain. This is called a neural pathway. This energy travels across a neural pathway. When you repeat this thought, that same energy goes across that same neural pathway. And so when you repeat it over and over and over and over again, more energy goes through. And so the pathway becomes a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger, and it's allowed to transfer even more energy through it now. When you say the thought out loud, more energy goes. When you say the thought out loud with a lot of emotion and belief and all those things, even more energy goes through it. So think about people saying, oh no, I just can't do that. I just can't do it. And it's like, you're just repeating this belief system with a lot of like, oh, no, oh, I can't. And it's like, you're just sending this energy and you're reaffirming that thought, that belief system. Knowing this about our thoughts and beliefs, when you repeat something like this over a lengthy period of time, now mind you, check this out, right? When you're a kid, and this is very important for parents to understand, when you're a kid and you can't speak yet, you don't get to choose the thoughts. The thoughts are handed to you by your environment and everybody around you. And the thoughts that get repeated the most are the ones that are coming from the parental units. So what are you repeating around your children? That is actually programming them. So this is where these things actually start from. These thoughts actually come in. And then so these pathways kind of just go around. And then you hear, it's a joke that people make in movies and shows and things like that. But the first word that a kid says, or the first sentence that a kid says, typically is like an inclination of what was said around them a lot and what the words that were. And so in the jokes, you hear the kid cussing like as their first word and saying some bad thing or something like that as a baby. And it's like, that's funny, but that's what's being said around them. If that's what's being said around them, that's what they're picking up. That actually applies to human, that actually works. That's how the brain freaking gets programmed. Anyways,
Hey, Anubis. Sorry.
Anubis,
He was
don't
gonna go outside
destroy
and bark.
things.
So yeah. Uh, can
For
I touch
people
on
who
that
don't
real
know who
quick?
Anubis is a fantastic giant dog. Yes,
He's
please go
lovely.
ahead. Tell us.
But I keep in mind what you talked about last, so you can jump on it back. You were talking about programming and okay. Uh, I cuss like a sailor, and my children hear it all day long. But here's the programming that I do.
Okay.
So to kind of damage control the situation, I explain things to my son, and he actually doesn't even have it in the bone in him to want to cuss. He tells me not to use bad words. So the program is like, hey, don't do as I do.
Okay.
Recognize from my mistakes. When you see a mistake happening as an adult, I request the right to make a mistake as your parent, not because like I'm trying to just make mistakes, but because I am going to make mistakes. So if you see me, and by the way, I've cut it down, of course, by like 95%, because of his awareness of my cussing. Hey, mom, you're cussing. Hey, mom, you're cussing. So it might not be the case where the kid's gonna just start cussing. The case is this: when the parents cuss and then they don't back it up with like, "Hey, dude, my bad. Do not cuss. I was wrong. Do not be wrong like me." They don't back it up. They just cuss and leave. You know, and they
That's
continue to
great.
cuss.
That's a great point, dude. That's an excellent point. So the open dialogue, I think, is actually really important. A lot of parents thinks that
Yes,
kids won't get it if you have like adult
so
conversations with
smart.
them. And it's like, dude, they pick up everything and they can understand everything. They may not be able to like think maliciously the way that adults do, but they can process everything the way that adults do. And so
So
if you
smart.
can, yeah, man, absolutely. And it's really important what you just touched on, because that is actually part of programming. So one of the things that I was programmed to believe was that my parents were perfect because of the fact that she just chose not to show flaws in front of me. And then anytime that I kind of caught a mistake or something, she would
Yeah.
spin it and she would play it off somehow as if, oh no, it's not, it wasn't my fault, or it wasn't this, and it was, or I had this right, or whatever. And it's like, okay, it was well into my adult years where I was like, oh, my mom's not perfect, my parents aren't perfect. Oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense. So like so many things got cleared up now. But when you do it from the very beginning, look, I'm not perfect. I reserve the rights to make mistakes because I'm human. And I'm just going to be open with you because I respect you enough to be honest with you. And
Yes.
that is, look, man, that's like, in my opinion, that's my humble opinion, that's one of the best ways that you can parent somebody. You could be flawed and be
Yes.
developing yourself and be working on yourself. And then that ends up becoming an example for your kid as well. Because if he actually experiences you growing and becoming a different person, then they have the example, they have the visual model of, it's like, yo, my mom did it.
You affirm your child. You affirm your child when they see an inconsistency in you, and you validate that they are true, that they saw it, that they were real with what they saw. Because if you fucking say, I didn't do that, they're going to have their development is going to be off, because now they're perceiving something that they're being told is not true from their source of information that they've trusted all their lives. So you better believe that you're doing a disservice to your child by not confronting yourself in front of them. And when you affirm them in front, and when you affirm them, you're not, fuck your ego. All right. Your ego can, like, you can flush it down the toilet at that moment, because then your child is like learning to be a good human being, to make sure that they are on the side of righteousness and truth, and raise their children righteously and truthfully. And yeah, cuss. I don't give cuss if you have to at an adult age, you know, if you have to. But I mean, he's probably not gonna, because that's just the person he's gonna grow up to be. He watches GTA. He plays GTA 5. You know how the language is there and the
Sure,
murders are there.
yeah.
Yeah. And you've met my child,
Yes, I have,
you
and
know?
he's a blessing. He's an amazing kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's just because I'm honest with him and he's honest with me,
sure.
period.
Okay, there you go.
Program
Program.
honesty, program honesty. Practice it.
I mean, if you really wanna, if you really wanna like get technical about it, I think I don't know who I was having this conversation with, but the 10 Commandments, I feel like were like the original rules, like the
Hmm.
original programs. It's like, don't rob anybody, be honest with people, don't kill anybody, don't fuck that person's wife, don't do, like, you know what I mean? It's like really basic, dude, like super basic rules where it's like, just don't do, like, be this or don't be this, and you'll be fine. Like your life will be, for the most part, it should be good. You know, treat your neighbor as you want to be treated. That rule just by itself can apply to so many things in our society right now. It's like treat other people the way that you would want to be treated.
So
Anyways,
actually,
programming.
let me reverse engineer that, because
Ooh,
treat
reverse engineering.
yourself how you treat yourself, how you would want to treat yourself. And then you'll see how you're treating other people in relation to you. Because if you treat other people, let's say, well, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
your perception of well is that, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't get affirmed that you're
Mm-hmm.
treating them well, then
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to validate yourself either. And your treatment of them is going to be in vain in your thoughts. And so now you've not treated, not only do you think you've treated them well, but you think they're ingrate.
Yeah, but you
And
don't, you, so if you're mistreating other people, okay, and you're, from what I
you're probably mistreating
understand,
yourself,
not really, because so the thing
really.
is like you could be taking from other people to give to yourself because you're selfish and you want to take care of yourself. So you aren't willing to take care of other people. And so in that situation, if you're mistreating other people, you would mistreat yourself just to see what it feels like the way that you're treating other people. And
But if
that
you're
person's not
treating
going to do
yourself
that.
well, if you're treating yourself well, that does not mean that you're treating other people not well. What you're talking about is a different situation. Like we're talking about like morality and maybe like, I don't know, just morality and being just a good human being, just not mistreating other. But the idea that you have to treat someone well and receive that treatment back is what's gotten it flawed. Because a lot of people don't understand how to reciprocate treatment of each other. And so when we have expectations of treatment and we give that expectation to somebody else because like we expect that that's how it's supposed to be and don't get it back, our ideas become obscured and now we're tainted and jaded and everyone sucks. But what we forget to do is we forget to treat ourselves first. And
So,
that means
okay.
treat yourself well first.
So, all right. The quote, I don't believe uh elicits or whatever. I don't think implies, excuse me. There you go, that's the word. I don't think the quote implies that if you treat yourself the way, what is it?
If you treat others well,
Treat others the way that you want to be treated. There you go. Treat others
mm-hmm.
the way that you want to be treated. It's not saying do it so that they reciprocate. It's saying it, I think, and this is what my belief system is. It's saying it that if everybody did that, so if everybody was like, let me treat other people the way that I want to be treated, that means that if you and I are like in the same society, then if I treat you well, assuming that I just want to do that, then you would do the same. It's not,
Assuming, but that's the whole point, that there's an assumption left
it's
behind.
assuming that everybody's doing it. That's the thing.
Yes,
That's the goal. That's the kind of
yes,
the
but we're
rule of the
not,
society.
right? But
We're
we're not
not.
all.
That's
And
the
so what
issue.
does it let? It gets left inconsistent. We are inconsistent. And therefore,
But it also speaks to the energy that you're putting out into the world. So even if people aren't reciprocating, but you're just choosing to live your life based on this thing of, I'm just going to be nice to people because I want people to be nice to me. I'm just going to be, it makes you a better human being.
I don't think so. I think what it does is it gives you the perception that you're a better human being because you're doing this for what reason exactly? Altruism in and of itself has a lot of selfishness in it too, because you're trying to reap energy from outer sources. The inner source energy is lacking. Okay, so inner source energy must be maintained and generated for you to be able to not say, oh, I'm going to do this in hopes of getting it back, but this is what I do. Like, this is what I do. You understand
Uh-huh.
what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
it doesn't even matter. Like, this is what I do. And treating others how we want to be treated, you have to be in such a good place to
Uh-huh.
be able to do that. Because what if people are in bad, horrible places and they treat others how you know what I'm saying? You can't generate positive energy outwardly if you're not inwardly able to generate it. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of reprogramming. So
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure. So, okay, I agree. And I think I understand what you're saying. I think I never mentioned that at all. So I agree 100%. I think it starts from internally. Like if you have it and you're overflowing with it, then you can pass it
yeah,
on to other people as well.
it's just what you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I agree.
It's who you
I
are
agree.
at that point. It's like
Yeah.
it does, you don't define like that saying anymore. That saying is you. Like, I'm treating others how I want to be treated. And how do you treat
Sure.
yourself exactly?
Sure.
If I see someone saying that, I want to analyze how they're treating themselves.
Sure.
And then that's going to validate for me if that is true for them or if it's
Yeah.
just the facade. And if it's just a facade, it's okay because we all want to be treated well, but we don't know how to do it for ourselves. We have to learn there.
Yeah. Programming. Absolutely. So, okay. Connect this to what we were originally talking about. Because we were
Okay.
talking about the actual process of programming and how
Yes.
your original thoughts and the things that are said around you as you're coming up develop your current belief systems. And so let's say, okay, so here we go. Here's, I think, where the connection comes in. So if one of the original programs are treat people the way that you want to be treated, and based on what the conversation that we just had right now, if you aren't first treating yourself well,
Mm-hmm.
then your version of like great treatment is probably skewed.
Yes.
So what you are doing for other people may not necessarily be the best thing anyways.
Yes.
So what was, yeah, see, I'm connecting
That's a good
dots. I'm like,
summary. It's a good
did I
summary.
understand? Like, did I
Yes.
get it? Um,
Excellent.
so then that speaks to the original programming of what do you think is actually good and what do you believe in, uh, like the proper treatment of yourself is supposed to be. What were you trained to believe that to be?
Mm-hmm.
And if they weren't the best things, and so here's kind of like because this part is a little bit tough to gauge because it's like, well, how do you know if they weren't good? Like, how do you know if what your
Okay.
original priming isn't good? And typically my response is, well, look at the results of your life. If the results of your life aren't the results that you actually want, it's probably because your programming was a little bit skewed and you're living off of faulty programming. Typically, I think that's what it might be. And it applies to a lot of different things because like you could be good emotionally, you could be good intellectually, spiritually. You may not be necessarily all that great financially. You could be great financially. You may not necessarily be all that great emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's tough to gauge because it's so case by case.
So, I mean, the easiest way to gauge this is looking again inward. It's literally, what do you feel about yourself and how do you feel? Do you feel balanced? Do you feel imbalanced?
There
Do
you
you
go.
feel light? Do you feel heavy? Like, what do you feel? And then a lot of the times, our feelings, they get misconstrued again by explanations that we give it based on projections that we have per our life experience.
Mm-hmm.
So most often than not, people don't really dive deeper, nor do they like study themselves to get the actual explanation of things.
Yeah.
They just explain, you know, we Google things and hypochondriacs, we like, oh, why's my head
Yeah,
hurting? Oh, you have
exactly.
cancer.
Yeah, I've done that so many.
So like we carry on with the programming.
Yeah.
We don't do anything different, because guess what? You've done that for other things before,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing's changed
Mm-hmm.
since you've been doing that. So why
Mm-hmm.
do you continue to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Because of programming, because your
Yeah.
pattern is comfortable. You are worried about failing when really what you're doing is not succeeding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, change the
So
pattern.
that actually is a great segue. Uh, so the original, I think, affirmations that, like, the first time that I remember experiencing affirmations
Mm-hmm.
were when I was assigned standards in middle school. When, like, I don't know what I had done, but I did something wrong. And then they're like, I want you to write down, 50 times, I will not do this ever again, kind of a thing. And I remember I was like, wow, this is like a punishment. Like, they're punishing me. And I'm like, I never understood that it's like supposed to be an attempt at programming. It's like supposed to be this
Mm-hmm.
attempt at
Mm-hmm.
affirmations and like proper programming. But the flaw, and you actually just addressed it, is they were saying, I will not do something. I
Mm-hmm.
am not this, or I would, some whatever, the negation, the negative version
Mm-hmm.
of the thing, instead of saying, I am focused, I like learning, I am a team player, I da 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 da, and just what the thing is that they are, or they want to be. I think standards are actually like really powerful. I think like they actually have
Yeah.
power to transform somebody if you just use them properly. And then even as adults, that's the thing. It's like I actually write out affirmations throughout my day, and I
Like
have
what? What's an example of an
um,
affirmation?
I typically believed before that my luck wasn't the best. And so recently I've just been saying, I, Arman Vakili, am the luckiest person in the world. And I imagine great success and all of those things as I say it. And that's basically, I, Arman Vakili, am the luckiest person in the world. And then I will add, I, Arman Vakili, I'm the greatest builder in the world. And I'll just say things like this. But yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
it used to be, I am worthy, I
Mm-hmm.
am deserving.
So it's
I,
evolved since.
yeah, absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
because the original thoughts were, you're not worthy. I
Yeah.
got a tattoo saying, demand your worth.
Hmm.
And those three words, literally, it made the first one is demand it. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I used to be very passive. So it's like, now demand it. And then the other one is your worth. What are you worth? Then you start asking that question, well, what am I worth? What am I demanding here? What
And
am
what
I
conclusion did you come to?
The world is what I'm worth. I'm worth the world, and I will
Why stop at
demand
the
it.
world?
The world, to me in my mind, implies quite literally everything: pre-life, during life, afterlife,
Fair.
everything, all of
So
it.
yesterday I was having a conversation on Facebook with people philosophically, and I
Yeah,
found out about Heisenberg. Forgive me, I don't know his first name, but he was a German scientist
let's
who
Google it.
actually came up with that. Not came up with it, but the atom. He pretty much understood the atom and explained the atom to us, and probably found it too. I didn't really dig deep, but I should have. But the philosophical part about this was that Heisenberg found this through reading Plato and learning Plato's philosophies on life. And that one of them was that thought was actually the smallest particle that ever exists, ever, because it's generated, but we can never identify its source. We can't identify the particle. Like it is the smallest
Hmm.
particle ever known.
Yeah,
And that's
quantum
thought. And
mechanics. Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
quantum mechanics. Yes, yes.
Yes, Werner
Yes.
Heisenberg.
Yes.
He got the 1932 Nobel Prize for the creation of quantum mechanics. Yeah, this is
Yes.
actually, I'm obsessed about quantum mechanics. There's a few modern day quantum physicists that I think you would actually love listening to. Joe Rogan likes interviewing them because
Yeah.
he's
They're
deep into this
deep.
kind of stuff.
That's why.
Yeah, yeah.
They're deep.
Unbelievable
Yeah.
conversations, man. Such great conversations. Like, holy shit, dude. And then what's
But
really
he,
interesting, sorry, go ahead.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll,
Go. No,
I'll,
no,
I'll
no, no,
hold
no,
on
no,
to the
no, no,
thought.
no, 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 no. No. Tell me, tell me. What's
It's
interesting?
that, like, because they have these really, really deep conversations about, thought is like the smallest particle, and like when something like this happens, and then like they start talking about just really out of world shit. And then he's like, yeah, but what's interesting is that I'm having these theories and all these conversations, and then my wife comes and says, Brian, make dinner. And it's like, you come out of the universe, out of these like giant conversations, and it's like, here, go do this human thing now.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
Because
Brian,
that's
take out
part
the
of being
trash.
human, right?
Yeah. But it's like, it's so awesome because they really they talk about the brain being the universe and the human mind being the
Yes, it
final
is.
frontier, and like all of these things, and just like, it's just so cool, man. I'm like,
It's so
I'm nerding out.
insane that we have
Oh
not
my
studied
God.
ourselves in the way that we are doing it right now.
Yeah.
And it's not new science. It's just it's not been exposed in the way that it's being exposed right now.
It's not being
And
funded.
I mean, like, we all have a dollar. We all have a brain.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the funding you need.
Well, so this is the thing, is that like somebody who is like Brian Greene or Werner Heisenberg, like these people, they are technically government employees, because when you're theorizing and like thinking about quantum mechanics, there isn't really right now. There
Yeah,
is,
they
because
own
like
you, huh?
the 60-70% of tech is now using quantum mechanics. Like they wouldn't exist without the
Yeah.
development. But when they were working on quantum mechanics at that time, there was no practical application, and so the government wouldn't fund it. And it's now the same thing, because they have quantum computers now, and quantum computers
So we don't need our brains?
almost. No, legit. No,
No, I know.
legit.
I'm
That's the thing.
scared.
It's like, that's the thing where it's like, it's getting to the point that the computer, the AI within the computer, because we're talking about programming now, so it's
Yeah,
kind of
of
crazy.
course. It's all that.
Yeah, the AI within the computer is now so advanced that the human beings can no longer program it, so it's programming itself. And the AIs help each other develop, and so they are now programming each other. This is
So what you're
actually
saying is we need an underground bunker somewhere soon.
no, this is actually, when I started like studying these things, I actually was like, okay, so what would happen? And a lot of people lean immediately to that side. They're like, oh
The
shit, it's the end.
apocalypse.
Yeah, they're going to take over the world. And I actually firmly believe that we're going to be gods in the eyes of AI. We are going to be the parents and the
Oh
original
my
creators.
God. So that means that we are going to actually perish from this earth, and the robots will take over, because that's exactly what the pattern is. It's a recyclable pattern. The gods then die out. Like, look at the stories of Olympus and Zeus and all those things, and humans overthrowing the gods. I
Okay.
mean, let's look at it like that. It's a pattern. It's stories been told. That
I
means it's
think
happened before.
I think it'll be by choice. I think it'll be based on the snobbiness of the human species,
That
because
will
the
perish.
gods, yeah, because the gods were, oh, we're too high and mighty to procreate
Yes.
with you humans. And so why
And
should
now
we
we physically
expand?
can't.
Yeah. Well, I think we can, because you can actually create humans inside an incubator. You can do that now. Like you
Oh
could
God.
take somebody's
Yeah, that's true.
sperm and put it with a incubator and create humans now. So you can actually do that. So
We're gonna have like a really weird I just, the premonitions are all real. It's not nothing conspiracy theories, you guys. Like, it's happening. Everything that is happening towards the stories. Now we may not look like the
100%.
aliens, we may not look like
100%.
that or whatever, but everything is leading up to it. That's why those movies,
100%.
Terminator and stuff, that's why people say, oh my God, the apocalypse.
Yeah,
Because they see the pattern of something like that. It may not be exactly like that, but the pattern is real.
sure.
And I'm Sarah Connor. Who are you?
Right. Me, I don't know. I'm
You haven't
the
chosen the side yet?
no, I'm the one that's like watching from the top saying, "Oh, look at these fools like battling each other out."
No, there's no fun there. You can't even like indulge in the made up sci-fi
Have
fantasy.
you seen Rick and Morty?
Um, Not lately, no.
But you are aware of the characters.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so there's this episode, I think in like the last season, where like Rick battles God. Have you seen it?
Oh my God, no, but I've been wanting to do a skit like that. But go on.
Yeah, it's actually pretty awesome. Like, and it's like the the way that they've kind of practically created that argument where it's like you have this super genius human who's fighting God because like
Mm-hmm.
they have been able to accomplish pretty much all of the things that God can, quote unquote, but because they're human and they're just this like genius scientist, it's like it's pretty cool. I would say I'm Rick. Like I'd be like I'm this mad scientist. I'm this like this insane person who's like constantly, he's actually having a blast. I feel like with everything that he does, he's enjoying the fuck out of himself.
Sure.
Fun
Sure.
fact, the actual actor who does his voice for Rick actually gets drunk on stage while he's reading. They released their behind the scenes footage of him
I
recording the
love that.
audios. He actually gets drunk and
Have
then
you
he's
watched
like,
Drunk History? That's like that.
no. That sounds great. That's such a
Mm-hmm.
great thing. That's a
Yeah,
great idea. That's such a great idea.
it is. It's what we
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's kind of come back here because
Let's come
we
back.
ran off on a completely, well, no, we were on topic for the most part, I think. Um
I don't think people are gonna come on just to watch us be like, well, I'm a pseudoscientist and a philosopher, and they want to hear our freaking
well, you
thoughts
never
and
know,
ideas. You
man.
know,
You never know. The video might come
we're
up
not
because somebody's
pseudoscientists.
yeah, we're not. I'm not even gonna pretend. I just like reading and I geek out about certain topics and I
Yes,
like
and as
learning
you
more
should.
about them. Yeah. Um Okay. So to be able to, because we literally, I don't know what just happened, but it turned 12 o'clock. So it's like, it's
That's
like,
fast.
it just, yeah, it just flew by. I was like, holy shit. Okay, so let's do something valuable. I mean, no, the whole thing is valuable, but like practical, excuse me,
Okay.
practical,
Do you need
practical.
affirmation that this is
No,
all valuable?
no, I believe that it's
All right.
100% valuable. Practical is the word that I was looking
Yes,
for.
they're all
So, okay,
practical.
because the conversation of programming can be like really intangible and a lot of people they're like, okay, well, this is all great, but I still have to deal with myself now, and I still have to, like,
Mm-hmm.
after I stop watching this video, I still have to, like, all this. So what do you do?
That's great. I mean,
Yeah.
that is great. If you watch this video and you get off and you're like, okay, now what do I do?
Well, so let's give them the what to do, because
Yes.
I don't want to leave them there.
So
I
what do
don't
they
want to
do?
just,
Tell me, what
yeah.
would they do?
So, okay. So this idea of reprogramming is it requires patience. Okay, I will say this to you right now, because your first set of affirmations are probably not as, maybe they will be, but they might not be as poignant as your like
Mm-hmm.
10th set or something. So this is something that you work on all the time, right? Like think about new affirmations all the time. Just write things down, even if it's just once. Just write things down, like write down supportive ideas. I am this. I do this. I will have this. Whatever it is, something positive, as long as, and now here's the kicker, because we didn't even get to talk about this yet, but Narina mentioned this before we got on the call. It should motivate you.
Oh,
Like
yes.
whatever it is that you're affirming should make you feel better. It should make you like it should uplift your energy somehow in some way. It may not necessarily be like, oh fuck, I'm gonna run through this wall. You may not
Mm-hmm.
get like that, but it should help you. Like there should be
Mm-hmm.
something where it's like, okay, I feel a little bit lighter, like this tension on my shoulders, or I feel a little bit better. That should be there. And if it's not, I urge you and I challenge you to try to find what will do that. Like find the thing, the thought. And it's what's awesome about this is that you literally don't need anything, because it's you're looking for a thought. You're looking for a series of thoughts.
So the best way to find it is actually to write them all down as they're
There you
happening.
go. Yeah, yeah, of course. Yes.
Writing down your thoughts allows you to tangibly look at it,
Mm-hmm.
with your eyes. And therefore, when you write them down, you're actually inscribing them in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's something more in the forefront that you can work on versus something that is like bothering you in the background
Mm-hmm.
and you're not addressing it. And therefore, it's continuously living in that space that you're providing it rent free. Imagine you can remove that thought and put something else in there that could help generate money,
Mm-hmm.
that can help generate more spiritual positivity in your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why are you holding on to a thought that's making you feel miserable? The
Mm-hmm.
smallest of particle that cannot even be seen by the naked eye
Mm-hmm.
is dragging you down.
Yeah.
So the motivation is this: uh what's your motivation? Motivation is something that's a spark, and that spark happens one time like that to kind of like ignite you. And the ignition happens with another set of sparks where
Mm-hmm.
action is taking place,
Mm-hmm.
little small steps.
Mm-hmm.
Because that spark can't generate you fully through from point A to point Z. You need that spark to get started. And that's where people stop because they expect that spark to carry on all through the entire journey. No, that spark is an initial.
Yeah.
Motivation carries on with your steps that you take. That
Yeah.
shows how motivated you are to achieve your goal.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing shit, I'm so sorry, your spark is going to just remain that, a spark.
Yeah, success is its own motivator. When like anytime that you accomplish, even if it's like a small step, like you'll feel energized. Like you'll feel the energy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, I got something done. Like it feels good to just be like, I put the cap on that. Like I got that
Yeah.
done. Um, yeah, and
What's
I think
next, you know?
reading the things that you're writing, I think that's like a really, because it also works the opposite way as well. Like if you have negative thoughts and you don't realize that they're negative, or like you are really bought into them for some reason, if you write them down and read them out loud after, like this was an exercise that they made us
Mm.
do, that they're like, write down all of your limiting beliefs, write down all the negative things, and then read them out loud like 4 or 5 times. And by the third time, you kind of like, you look at it, you're like, this sounds ridiculous. Like, who the fuck is this person? And then
Yeah.
after a while, you're like, I definitely don't want these anymore. Like, really, like, it's actually
Yeah.
a really interesting exercise because, like, it kind of feels like you've detached the thoughts from yourself and you're just
Yes.
reading them and you're like, this is, what the hell is this? It's like, who
The,
would do this over and over to themselves? It's like, why
yeah.
would somebody do this to themselves? So I think that is actually really powerful when you write it down. So when you write down, and both sides, right? You write down both of the thoughts, whether they're good or bad, and then the awareness of it, and then seeing it, and then when you look at the bad ones and you're like, well, I definitely don't want to go towards this. So you kind of move away from this, and the only other direction that you have is to go towards your positive thoughts, and then you start looking for more positive thoughts. And if you write them down and then you have them in front of you, now you're moving towards those thoughts and those programmings.
So one thing that I can also add on to
Yes,
is when you're
please.
writing your negative thoughts down, go back and see if you can turn them into a positive thought. Reverse engineer your thoughts. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
all about reverse engineering.
Yeah,
You've been programmed, now we're teaching you to reprogram. So everything
yeah.
you do, see if you can reverse engineer it in a positive manner and how that would affect your life. So something to I'm always late everywhere I go. Reverse engineer it to I make it to places that I'm invited to um on the time that I can make it or whatever.
I'm
So
on time. You could
yeah,
just
I'm
make
on
it simple.
time. Yeah, something.
Just make it simple.
Even though you're perceived to be late, but that time is an illusion. It's just a tool that we use to meet in the same place at the same time,
Well,
so we
so
can get things done.
literally on that, like just to piggyback off of that idea,
Yeah,
it takes time to reprogram. So
yeah.
if you're trying to say, or if you're trying to program yourself to actually be on time, it starts with the affirmation of I'm on time. But then that repetition takes some
Yeah.
time for it to kick in. So the cells in your body start believing that you're on time, and then you start acting accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it that like time is just an illusion. Is
An
that what you just called
illusion.
it? Yeah,
Yeah.
time literally is an illusion, because you can live as the person that you want to be 10 years from now. You can live as that
Today.
person now,
Yeah.
and then by living as that person now, you will actually attract the things that that person has, and the
Yes.
life that that person. It's really interesting the way that that shit works. I was
Yeah.
like, that's kind of cool that you could actually do that. But for some people, the current programming is very loud, so it's tough. And
Actually, it's
that,
the quietest of programming that is the hardest to unravel. The
well,
quietest
because like
programming.
that quiet programming becomes really loud anytime that you try to reprogram it. Like the instant that
Yeah.
you try to go against it, that's when it starts screaming.
You're
Like
right.
you don't hear it day to day, and then it's like the
feels
I get
its end.
I get these like visualizations, but it's like there's like a jagged arrow that's in your arm that you don't feel unless you try to pull out the arrow.
Mm.
And it's like this horrifying pain when you try, because it's jagged and it's like it's all, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I embody, or how I visualize like bad programming that people
And
are like stuck to. It's like it's stuck in there and it
it's like this,
hurts.
right? It's
Yeah.
like this, right? So sometimes you just got to push it through.
Or that. Whatever it is, you got to get rid of it. Like whatever the
Yeah,
technique is, you got to get rid of the arrow. That's the whole
push it
point.
through.
Is either way, you might need to make a hole on the other side, or you might need
Yeah,
to break this off, or there might need to be a surgery that's done that you get a professional like Narine to come help you remove the fucking thing. But there needs to be something that's done
right,
that you
right.
remove the arrow. The whole idea is remove the arrow because you're bleeding and you need to address it. And there will be a scar there for sure, but there will no longer
Yeah,
be bleeding. And you will look at it in fond remembrance of the time that you overcame the things that you overcame. But you got to remove the arrow. And it hurts.
yes.
It hurts. I get it. It hurts, but do that shit.
It'll hurt more staying there for the rest of your life.
100%. So, okay, so tell us, final thoughts, Miss Narina. Final thoughts for this week's
Ooh.
conversation.
So the final thought is more philosophical, of course, but
Yeah. Of course. The conversation we've been having, I hope so.
yeah. The easiest way to reprogram yourself is to forgive everything you've ever known and forgive things about yourself that you felt were not beneficial to you in your life, in your circle. Forgive everything about what you've known to be true that you no longer know to be true anymore, and allow yourself the space to make changes, however that translates for you. But you must understand where your perimeters are and grow in that, grow into that and then expand from there.
Yeah. That's good.
Oh, and about affirmations, the affirmations will happen. The universe will deliver it. You don't like literally, you won't need anyone to say a word because you will see it all around you happening.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody will see it all around you happening. That's the affirmation that it is happening. No one, you don't need the denial or the approval, right? It's
Yeah.
great to get a recognition. That's what we seek, the recognition. But the affirmations
Sure.
will occur around you.
Yeah. I would say, and I think this is like something that I say all the fucking time, but it takes patience and it takes persistence, repetition. There is an initial inertia that
Mm-hmm.
comes with transformation in any way, in any capacity. There's an initial resistance that you have to face, and it's
Mm-hmm.
typically internal. It's not like, a lot of times it's not, it has nothing to do with anybody else, but there is that initial resistance and you have to push past it. It makes it much easier once you do,
Mm-hmm.
but once you push past it, you start actually seeing some results, and that's when it becomes easier and it becomes more exciting and more fun to go through. But that initial pain, that arrow that you got to push through and yank it from the other side, it feels like you like a 1 year experience, but it was
Yeah.
literally like 10 seconds. But it feels like it was a 1 year experience because of the pain and because of all that resistance and everything that you had to go through. So that it's the same way. And it doesn't matter what you're trying to accomplish. It could be weight loss, it could be financial gain, it could be improvement in your relationships. There's always that initial pushback. And then if
Mm-hmm.
you can
Mm-hmm.
push past that, typically things become easier. So don't rob yourself of that success and of that happiness that comes with whatever that accomplishment is, just because it hurts
Mm-hmm.
at first. Like don't deprive yourself of that just because it's uncomfortable towards the beginning.
Right. I concur. Discomfort is just means you're growing.
Yeah, growing pains. That's a beautiful thing to actually be able to experience. Not very many people do. So,
Yep.
okay.
Agreed.
So mantra for the week. Give us a mantra.
Do you, boo boo?
Do you? Do you, boo? Because I'm going to do me.
Yeah. Learn how to treat yourself better so that way you can treat others well. And let's start from there. Coming.
Yeah, I'm getting a knock on my door. I would say the mantra for this week, I would say, is I am worthy of prosperity. Say that. Just say that to yourself. Go look at yourself in the mirror, look deep in your eyes. If you can, put a smile on your face and say, I am worthy of prosperity. And then just say that a couple of times a day if you can. Mantra.
Or do you,
Mantras.
boo boo?
Or do you, boo boo? Prosperity, if you want, or whatever. Replace prosperity with another word that gets you excited.
Fine. All of it gets me excited.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Arman Vakili. This is the wonderful, tenacious, audacious, fantabulous, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious Narine Tadevosyan. This was Mind on the Money. And hopefully you got some value from it. Please subscribe, please follow, please comment, please share. Let us know if you have any topics that you would like for us to discuss in future episodes. And we would love to talk about it. Absolutely. And yeah, at Coach Narine or Coach Nar? Coach Nar?
Coach Nar, yeah.
Coach Nar. At Coach Nar on all things social, or at Nar Smart or Narine Tadevosyan. Find her. At officially Arman on all things social. Find me. Let's chop it up. Let's connect. Let's see if there's anything that we can do to create magic in this beautiful world. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out. Can you please leave us with a goodbye? Give us a goodbye, Narine.
My son says good morning in a singing voice every morning in class. So goodbye.
Goodbye. Okay, guys.
Bye.
Later.